Hello, everybody. I'm just going to let everybody's video load as they enter the webinar room. You'll notice that there isn't options to turn video on because of the webinar format, but we will keep the chat open for folks to be typing and asking questions throughout this webinar. But you'll notice that things might be a little different than your usual Zoom meeting. And we'll just let everybody join here. Lovely. And we are just waiting on Erica and James Reid here. And if they're in the attendees list, we'll add them into the panelists. Or send us a message if you're here and we haven't seen you yet. But I will start and I'll introduce myself. Oh, you are here. Okay, Alyssa will add you. Perfect. Lovely. Thanks everyone for being patient as we sort through our first speakers and events of the day. So my name's Stephanie Krolik. I'm the program coordinator here at Take Me Outside. I'm one of your co-hosts today. You'll see we have a few panelists and friends here, and Erica and James joining us. Oh, and another guest too, a third guest. So I'll quickly introduce myself and I'll pass it off to Haley and then to Erica and James. And if maybe you were just at our previous webinar with Joe, which was amazing, just a little bit earlier this morning. And if not, the recording is posted online or will be very soon. And so if you're joining us again, lovely to have you again. If this is your first time joining on one of our events, welcome. It's lovely to have you here as well. And if you're unfamiliar with Take Me Outside, our mission is to encourage students and teachers, educators and learners to spend time outdoors, to make that a time that's a regular part of everyday learning. And myself, I'm on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, which is Coast Salish territory, and where I am specifically is the traditional unceded territory of the Ko-Whatsan people, the Cowichan tribes, and also the Hul'qumi'num speaking people. I'm very happy to be here and move back to my homeland where I grew up. It's nice to be back here. I see people saying hello from where they're at in the chat here. But we know that in the context of outdoor learning in North America and across the world, it's fundamental to be having these conversations, understanding the local traditional ecological knowledge and perspectives on the land, to have a relationship with the land and the peoples that are on it and have been on it for thousands of years, taking time to nurture relationship with Indigenous peoples who are on this land and have been here. I would love to see in the chat where you're calling in from and what Indigenous territory that might be. So if you're living on territory that you do not know whose it is, you can go to nativeland.ca. That's a fantastic website. Alyssa just put it in the chat. It covers the whole globe, and it might be a good place to start in terms of building relationships with Indigenous folks, First Nations, Native groups in your area. And yeah, I would love to see all those pour into the chat. Amazing. And also welcome to Take Me Outside Week in general. So we often have workshops with our partner at the Outdoor Learning Store, things like that, but it's fantastic to be hosting a full week of activities, events, and speakers, and all these fun things. And I'm happy to be here as one of the co-hosts. And I'm gonna pass it off to Haley as well. And Haley is from Natural Curiosity, one of our amazing outdoor learning organizational partners, and I will allow her to introduce herself.
All right, thank you. So my name is Haley Higdon, and I'm the program director of Natural Curiosity. I am a mom of a 3-year-old, and I am a guest and settler on Turtle Island, and really excited to be a part of this conversation today. We wanted to start with a land acknowledgement, and I'm going to share a land acknowledgement. So yeah, just grateful that Natural Curiosity is a partner of Take Me Outside Day. And then also just going to move so everybody can see the land acknowledgement. I'm coming from Toronto, and this land acknowledgement was created by grade 6 students at the Dr. Jackman Institute of Child Study Laboratory School. And they created this land acknowledgement for their grade 6 graduation. And they wanted to expand on the written land acknowledgement that they were given to Reid, because they'd spent a year working with their teacher librarian as well as Indigenous partners of the school to learn about the true history of this country, to learn about the impact of colonization and residential schools, but also to learn about, ceremony, as they say, and celebration and strength of the First Nation communities of the area. So they wanted to also challenge the people who were coming to their graduation to think more deeply about what a land acknowledgement could be. And this land acknowledgement is a living, breathing, changing land acknowledgement as we as a school community continue to learn more. One of the, some of the feedback that we've gotten is this land acknowledgement is actually missing acknowledging that we are part of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant. That's a territory that we are in. And so that we are working to include that in the land acknowledgement as well. So just wanted to share a land acknowledgement that was developed by grade 6 students to think about how you and your students, or any of the students that are joining us today, can think about making a deeper connection to the words they share around a land acknowledgement. So this presentation for the grade 6 students, it was their graduation, begins with a land acknowledgement, because we will be using the land and need to respect this place where Indigenous people have lived and continue to live. We wrote this to share some of our learning and to teach others. We thought about who would be hearing it, and we didn't want to make it too complicated or too simple. We would like to thank the first peoples of this land and all of creation, including the animals, plants, land, water, air, rocks, trees, and all that exists on this beautiful earth. We honor the Indigenous people whose traditional territories include the land on which we gather today: the Petun, the Wendat, Mississaugas, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and other nations whose names we no longer remember because of the impact of colonialism. We want to honor the treaties that were made with the land and between First Nations and the Crown. Treaties should be honored no matter what political party is in power. The story of Canada that most of us know is not the whole story. We've been learning from Indigenous sources about losing language and culture through residential schools, and also about ceremony, celebration, and strength of community. When we're thinking about doing something to the land like dams or pipelines, we should ask Indigenous people first, because they have lived in balance with nature for thousands of years. We've lost our relationship to the earth by doing things like polluting and taking too much. We need to ask ourselves, what is more important? What I get out of this, or what happens to the land? We need to think 7 generations ahead. What we do today, how will that affect tomorrow? And we invite you to do the same. So some of you might have been in the first presentation this morning, and so this might be the second time that you're hearing this, and hopefully you're taking something new or different in as we read that land acknowledgement. So again, thank you so much, and welcome to everybody for being here. I'm just changing screens. There we go. So want to welcome Erica and James, and we will be hearing from them, but there will be an opportunity for questions near the end. So please feel free to share any questions that you may have for them. And I believe somebody else was going to do a special thanks to a partner before I share about our presenters.
Do you mean I'm gonna say thank you for Natural Curiosity?
Well, that too, but then also Strong Nations, who published this amazing book that we are about to hear about.
Definitely, yeah. I also want to say thank you to Natural Curiosity too, as well. And for folks who aren't familiar with Natural Curiosity, just quickly, they're an environmental education program from the University of Toronto Laboratory School, and they do fantastic work supporting educators, embracing the outdoors as a place of learning, curiosity, and reciprocity, and connecting to the natural world alongside their learners. So, and we're lucky to have that second edition resource, one of which we're giving away today. So stay tuned to the end for prizes. But if you are unfamiliar with them, go check out all the amazing things Natural Curiosity has to offer. And as well, yeah, our partner Strong Nations Publishing, they're just down the road from me on Vancouver Island, although they closed their sort of physical shop, but they are an amazing online publisher, store, resource, and they've connected us with these two amazing authors we have here today. And we're so grateful for that. And they also put together an amazing prize bundle that we're giving away at the end of this too. So just so much gratitude to Strong Nations, and of course Natural Curiosity for being here today. And last but not least, Erica and James, to have you here today is so fantastic. And I'm really excited, and I know that everybody joining in is as well. And I don't think there's anything else on our end to do. I think we should just pass it off. Although Haley, if you want to introduce
Yeah, well,
Erica and James.
I do have your bios, but I don't know about you two. I hate when somebody else reads off my bio. So I want to welcome you to introduce yourselves if that it just always feels more natural. And so I appreciate as a presenter when people sort of give me the opportunity to do that instead of sort of reading off a script. But yeah, I think we would really excited to hear your voices. Really appreciative of this book. I just wanted to share, I know Natural Curiosity, one of our main focuses in connection to the Truth and Reconciliation Calls to Action for Education is the call to action 63, number 3, which is building student capacity for intercultural understanding, empathy, and mutual respect. And I see so many connections between that call to action and your book, and really appreciative of that and what you've put out into the world to share with children and educators and anyone in general. So thank you for being with us today, and I'm going to pass it over to you three.
Singait la Dilangwad Luchan Gittinjat Hanudi Kiraga Erica Yetz Heidiga Kishki at the Klalga James Uiji at the Gitka Ishlinga Nanu Hiwas Uiji. So good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Eagle Woman is my traditional name. Erica is my English name. This is my husband, James, and this is our baby son, Southeasterly. Like I said, my English name is Erica. My mother is Haida from Haida Gwaii, and my father is Jim Sian from Lacolams in British Columbia here. We make our home in Skidegit, Shkagilda, Haida Gwaii, and that's a little bit about us. We're a big family. This is our 5th baby. So we have Willow, who's about to be 12, Chaya, who's just turned 10, Taju, who's just turned 8, Doss, who turned 2 in June, and Hiwas, who is 6 months. Both teachers, I'll hand it over to James so he can do a little introduction as well. And we're coming to you from Kailnagai, Sea Lion Town, just at Second Beach in Skidegit.
My name is James Reid. I don't have as good of an introduction as Erica. I'm a teacher here, an artist, starting to become a writer, I suppose, which is pretty neat. Happy to be here. Happy that our little book is here.
And I do see some questions popping up in the chat. our children, their names are a mix of meanings. Willow, of course, named after a tree. Chaya in the Haida language means sunshine or sunny, and she's very ginger, red hair. Taju in the Haida language means wind or windy, and he came into the world very quickly. So in Haida, his name means wind. Doss, he's also another little ginger, and in the Haida language, it means light of a spark. His hair is very red. And Haiwas, his name is a Simalyach name, which is the language spoken by the Tsimshian people. And his name means southeasterly. So that's the introduction from us. We're so honored to be here and have been looking forward to this event for quite some time. So maybe without further ado, we can jump right in and do a reading of the book, and that way we can allot some time for questions or discussion. I don't think I'll quite be able to keep up to the chat, but maybe if one of our organizers can kind of just keep an eye on any questions coming in there, we can address those after the reading. Definitely. Sorry, did you want to add something?
Yeah, so I think before we read, I just want to talk about where we were and sort of like the things that were happening in our life when we wrote the book. Because we're not authors, right? I mean, I suppose now we are, and we have a second book in the works, but like at that time, no, not at all. So Erica was finishing her teaching degree off island, so off of Haida Gwaii. I had taken a leave and I was teaching in the same community, right? So I could support the family. And we just felt that Haida Gwaii is a very protected place, right? So like, yeah, there's racism here, there's tough stuff here, but it's a pretty tight community, right? Like I would say that we're ahead of a lot of the rest of the country in terms of reconciliation. And then when we moved off island, we were just like, whoa, like look at all the stuff that's happening. And when we had a moment of maybe we could have went down that road of being like down about it, we just decided like, hey, let's do something, even if it's something small, even if we just write a book that we like give free copies to like the schools locally and stuff like that. And we just turned our energy into creating something. In terms of like the stories, like everything in here has happened. We just kind of like mix the timelines up. Yeah.
Book looks like this. I wish you were here. The exciting thing about this is that together we co-wrote and co-illustrated the book. So we'll jump in and then we'll leave some time for question and discussion after. So here's the dedication. We dedicate this book to all those who speak up in the face of racism and make this world a better place for our children.
Dear reader, based on the real experiences of two friends, this book tells a story of friendship, culture, and community. It also shares examples of ignorance, discrimination, and racism that the authors encountered in their own lives. I wish you were her aims to encourage discussion of these issues so that everyone develops a better understanding of racial injustice. We hope you will join us in helping to end discrimination through education, friendship, and kindness. Young people experiencing social injustices will find helpful contact information at the back of this book. Reach out if you need help. We're glad you're here.
Okay, so I'm just going to show you an illustration here before I read the first page. On a sunny day, Michael and his family take a trip to Haida Gwaii. They visit Una Olnagai, Skidan, an ancient village within the Haida heritage site. Here, Michael meets Jean, her Nanai, grandmother, and her Chinai, grandfather, who were Haida Gwaii watchmen. It's the watchmen's job to share their knowledge of Haida history and culture with visitors. After the watchmen greet Michael's family on the beach, Jean shows Michael the depressions of the longhouses that stood there over 200 years ago. Next on their tour, they see the remaining memorial and mortuary totem poles still standing. They feel the presence of the ancestors who once lived here. In the magic of this place, the two children form a deep connection and begin a lifelong friendship. They agree to write letters to stay in touch with each other. Dear Michael, I'm so glad we are pen pals. I wish you were here.
Their visit to Haida Gwaii has a profound effect on Michael and his family, even after they return to their home in Terrace, a city near
Kisian.
Skeena River. Terrace is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. The Kitsillis and Kitsim-Kalim people have lived in the area for thousands of years. Michael and his family visit Kalim Lake north of Terrace and reflect on their trip to Haida Gwaii. They also enjoy camping and swimming in these beautiful surroundings. Dear Jean, we are camping at Kalim Lake. My sister and I love to paddle and swim here. The mountains and lakes are so beautiful. Sometimes we see trumpeter swans. They are amazing birds, but they sure are noisy. I wish you were here.
Jean lives in Skagilda, Skidegit, a Haida Gwaii community. She watches a basketball game at George Brown Recreation Center. During the potlatch ban from 1884 to 1951, residential school survivor George Brown brought basketball to Haida Gwaii. Today, basketball is a big part of the Skagilda community because it instills a great sense of pride within the people. Fusing Haida language, culture, and ceremony with basketball, the youth come together in sportsmanship to transform a history of oppression into a tradition of resilience. Dear Michael, I'm eating delicious cow, herring eggs on rowing kelp, and scousit potatoes, and watching a basketball game at the George Brown Recreation Center. The whole community sings and dances to drum beats and ceremonies before and after the games. I feel such pride in my culture. When we sing and dance, I feel alive. I wish you were here. Let's trade.
We'll do the baby pass off as we read pages. In the fall, bears visit Michael's yard to eat fallen apples and pears. One morning as Michael is heading off to school, he opens his front door and is surprised to see a large bear standing there. He quickly closes the door and waits for the bear to disappear into the forest. Dear Jane, I opened the front door to go to school this morning. There was a tom bear, so close it was almost touching me. It looked up at me and I closed the door as quickly as I could. I was excited to write you for two reasons. I wanted to share what a shock it was to have that huge head inches from me. I also wanted to try out some of the Haida words you've been teaching me. I knew ton meant bear, so I was excited to write a letter about a ton after having a close encounter with one. I wish you were here.
Jane visits her dad in Lakwalams, Port Simpson, in Tsimshian territory on the mainland of coastal British Columbia. The word Lakwalams comes from the word Lakwalams, which means place of the small roses. Jean looks out her window at a colorful sunset. Dear Michael, I'm visiting my dad. Looking out our living room window, I have so many memories of my life here, like sledding down Churchill Road in the winter. In the spring, we built forts in the trees. In the summer, we swam all day off the docks. In the fall, we would search the beach for ancient trading beads that were revealed at low tides. My favorite heart-shaped tide pool, which has been here for as long as I can remember, is also uncovered at low tide. The sight of that heart-shaped pool brings me a feeling of contentment and reminds me that here I am safe. I wish you were here.
Michael walks the magical Ferry Island Trail along the Kisian River and Terrace. He sits to eat a hamburger. Many years ago, Ferry Island was home to a Tsimshian riverboat captain who navigated ferries across the river. Today, no one lives on the island, but numerous intricate figures carved into the bark of the trees keeps its spirit alive. Dear Jane, my dad likes to take my sister and me to Ferry Island to eat a burger and catch up on life. Usually he takes us one at a time, which helps me feel respected and heard. I know you would like seeing all the carvings in the trees, but this place is about connection for me. I wish you were here.
One day, Jean and her mother decide to take a road trip. They stop at a grocery store for some snacks for the drive. While in the store, Jean asks a store clerk for the key to use the washroom. The store clerk will not give the key to her, discriminating against Jean because of the color of her skin. Dear Michael, today when we stopped at a grocery store on our road trip, a staff person would not let me use the washroom. She said to me, "The key is not here because you people don't return the key." I felt hurt for all the dark-skinned people of this town being negatively labeled "you people," as if we're not responsible. When I asked a different worker for the key, he gave it to me. It was there all along. We decided to shop somewhere else and just left our groceries at the store. I wish you were here.
Michael is now in middle school. One day, a girl in his class wears a cedar hat to school. On this day, Michael's class has a substitute teacher. When the vice principal sees the cedar hat, she demands that the student remove it, stating, "This is a no-hat school." But the teacher intervenes, putting his hand up as a signal to the vice principal to stop speaking. He knows that wearing a cedar hat is not the same as wearing a baseball cap or hood at school. Dear Jane, I had a substitute teacher recently. He stood up for a girl wearing a cedar hat when she was told to take it off by the vice principal. He said, "This is my classroom, and I am not okay with you telling my student to take off her regalia." After school, I asked the substitute why he did that. He told me the vice principal probably didn't even know what she was doing was wrong. When I asked how he knew she was wrong, he said, "Because I understand that regalia is ceremonial attire that carries the energy of every ceremony it's been a part of and witnessed to. In this way, it is not at all like a cap or hood." He also told me it was important to him to be an informed ally. He said, "I can be an ally to all people and cultures by learning and asking questions when I'm not sure." I felt like I learned more that day than I did all year. I wish you were here.
When Jean is frustrated with the racism she experiences, she turns to ceremony. When she and her mother are followed through stores and accused of shoplifting, they turn to ceremony. When she and her mother are treated unfairly, they turn to ceremony. When Jean experiences discrimination and racism, she feels hurt by the stereotyping of Indigenous peoples. To deal with her feelings, Jean and her mother prepare a food offering for their ancestors. Dear Michael, when my mother and I feel frustrated about racism, we make an offering of medicine and food in a fire to feed our ancestors. We pray to the Creator for those with racist assumptions about Indigenous peoples. We also pray to our ancestors to help us choose love in the face of ignorance. I wish you were here.
Michael turns to art when things in his life are not going well and he is feeling frustrated. He spends hours in his room drawing pictures of his thoughts and feelings. Art is Michael's healthy outlet for his emotions, allowing him to work through difficult feelings. Dear Jane, when I was little, my parents gave me scrap paper and I would sit in my room and draw for hours. I taped my drawings on the wall so I could step back and look at them. When I got angry or upset, my parents would tell me to go and draw it out. I haven't done this for a while, but I did yesterday because I was angry at all the discrimination I see around us. I don't know which is more upsetting, the obvious racism of the store clerk or when people don't even realize they're being racist like my vice principal. I wish everyone could see each other's cultural differences the way we do. That's something beautiful to be celebrated. This time when I stepped back and looked at what I had drawn, I didn't have any solutions, but I felt calm and more grounded. I wish you were here.
Over the years, Jean and Michael build their friendship by writing each other letters. They share happy stories, personal memories, and challenging times. As young adults, both Jean and Michael decide to become teachers. Their correspondence continues and their friendship develops into love. Today, they are married.
Epilogue. For the real life, Michael and Jean are parents to 4 children, Willow, Haya, Taju, and Doss. They celebrate and protect their intercultural marriage and family by having open conversations, setting personal boundaries, and doing what they feel is right for their family. Michael and Jean had an opportunity to do this when the family lived in Terrace. Their children came home from school feeling the same kind of unease and confusion their parents had felt years before. The kids took their feelings to their parents, and the family started a conversation. Willow wondered, why do we only sing Canada's national anthem at school assemblies when we're on Tsimshian territory? We sang the Haida national anthem as well back in Haida Gwaii, Haya remembered, but here they just sing one. It doesn't seem right, said Taju. Why isn't anyone else talking about this? Maybe they are, answered Michael. Injustice can be a difficult issue to bring up, said Jean. For one thing, not everyone has people in their lives with whom they feel comfortable asking these kind of questions. We do, sang Doss. We have comfy people.
Together, the family decided they would not sing Canada's national anthem until the government of Canada eliminates racist laws and policies that Indigenous people still endure under the Indian Act today. The school authorities acknowledged and respected the family's decision. They also took the opportunity to have meaningful discussions with students about reconciliation. Today, the family continues to participate in many cultural events in Northern British Columbia, even though they still experience racial discrimination. Michael and Jean strive to set a positive example for their family and community through their careers and writing. Michael and Jean ask questions in the face of racism and hope you will too. So that marks the end of our reading. The pages that come after that, there's some words to learn. There are some web-based resources for extended learning opportunities. And there's a really great discussion questions portion of the book at the end on page 31. So again, we're just so grateful to be here and to share a little piece of
Who we are
and our story and our attempt to leave a place better than we found it. And this has been one of our foundational teachings as Haidas and as Tsimshian people, and something we really work to instill in our children, that just because things can be hard, that we can provide intergenerational knowledge and tools that help to deal with it. And rather than being victimized or staying in a place of hurt or anger, that we can utilize tools that in the end help us and make us better and make us stronger and give us a voice. So this was really a project about us exercising that and being role models for our children, with the hope that they'll do the same. And then in light and in looking back at it, through creating art as a tool of healing and empowerment, we realized that we could have a message to share here, and that's the result. this book is the result of that, and of that approach of leaving a place better than we found it. So we thought this was a way to do just that. So at this time, you know, I'll look to our facilitators and to everyone joining us for a question period. And I think James just wants to add one more thing.
One more thing, and while you guys think of your questions, something I find really exciting is that while we're making something like this and editing was really exciting, so many ideas being passed around, is something that we were thinking about even when we were experiencing things and talking about things, was this is life in the north. This is life in northern BC. And sometimes it can be tough, but it's also so beautiful, right? And so many of our pages, even though we just made it with pencil crayons because it was the start of COVID and there was no art supplies, and we just went to Walmart and got something so we could illustrate somehow. We tried our best to display the land in the early pages as often as we possibly could, right? And just be like, even though these things are happening, you know, go out into the land, right? Go out and experience like the things that we wrote about, because it's a dual-sided coin, right? There's a lot of beauty, there's a lot of culture, and even though sometimes there's bad things, it all kind of is what it is. And I just want to touch on that it's really neat to be presenting To Take You Outside, because that's definitely a sub point to the book, but it's neat to be sharing it in this space.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate. I'm so glad we got to hear the book with your voices and to see everything, just to see it completely as well. And I know Alyssa and I particularly enjoyed that because we both spent some time on Haida Gwaii, and it's lovely to hear some place names and just feel a little bit back there right now. I'm going to let Haley also do a quick debrief as folks think of their questions and write questions in the chat. We've already seen at least one come in, and I'm going to pass it to Haley quickly while folks type their, and if you want to put your hand up as well, if you're watching this, and you could have a chance to unmute and speak your question if you'd like. So that's an option as well. But I'll pass it to Haley quickly here.
I just wanted to say Chi-miigwech, which is many thanks or big thanks in Anishinaabe-Moin, which is the language of the territory that I am joining from today, for sharing your book and sharing your stories, and encouraging us to have open and sometimes difficult conversations with our friends and our family members and our classmates. And, you know, finding those, as you said, comfy people, right? That might not be your family, but hopefully you can find that within an educator or within a friend, a pen pal, or even the land, right? As you mentioned, the land is actually a great listener, and the land can also help you learn and help you find some peace and comfort. So I really appreciated you bringing in the land as possibly a comfy person for us as well. And just, encouraging us all to ask questions in the face of racism and having the courage to do so. So appreciative of you joining us today. And I know that Erica and James, there are some questions coming in for you now. And so I'll pass it over to Steph, I believe, who will be sharing those questions.
Yeah, and I see them coming into the chat. People are also using the Q&A box, which is great as well. We can monitor both of those. The first one that came in from a grade 5 class near Landia. My class is wondering what grades that you teach and if you still do ceremonies.
Currently, I'm our high school's art teacher, although I also do a little bit of humanities. I teach, though, because we're a smaller community, our high school is 8 to 12. So I'm in that area. And I teach art with a little bit of humanities mixed in. So that would be like social studies and philosophy and history and stuff like that.
So I've been the Haida language and culture curriculum implementation teacher. And I did that when I finished my degree, also with a bit of subbing. And right now I'm on maternity leave with the baby. So I'll be home until March. So yes, we are both teaching, and ceremony is very much a part of who we are, and it's very much a part of life for us. And I would say one of the teachings of one of my language mentors, Waganut, Diane Brown, which was a teaching from one of her mentors, was Gina Wadlu Chan Gut at Quagget. And what this means is everything is connected to everything else. And so whether ceremony for us looks like feeding the ancestors, or whether ceremony for us is simply asking our ancestors and our creator for guidance and for support, or if we're cleansing in the ocean, or if we're burning sage or sweetgrass or cedar, if we're singing or drumming or dancing, we're potlatching, we're raising totem poles, we're strengthening names and celebrating chieftainships. It's very much a part of our life. And I call it the Haida hustle, because it doesn't ever really stop. It's just a part of us. So 100% we really live that ceremony and try to make space to bring our children into that way of being as often as we can. Hawa.
Amazing, thank you. A couple of questions from two different folks, but sort of about the same thing. Being interested in the cedar hat in the story and in the book, of what it represented, and just a little bit more about that, about the hat and why you included it.
So why we included it was, at this time I was teaching where Erica was going to university, right? But I was subbing. So I got a job as a contract TTOC. For those teachers, you might know what that is. And I was in this one classroom, and it felt so different in this community. Whereas like here in Haida Gwaii, like our students are so cultural, right? They're so proud of their culture. And it just had a very different flavor. And I didn't really see just that same sort of pride and connection, right? And so this was like during like kind of a missing, murdered Indigenous woman week, right? And there was a few girls in this middle school who were really active, and they actually, like, you know, wore their regalia, wore their hats, right? Put the red handprint on their face. And when I was subbing, so here we're reversing the story. So in the real world, that when this occurred, I was a substitute teacher. We just like changed the narrative and the timeline to make it a little bit different. And it's based off of that experience, as all of our pages are. They're based off of something real. And then Erica can explain the cedar hat.
Mm-hmm. So cedar to coastal people, the bark of a cedar tree and the cedar tree itself is very much a life source, right? It allows us to clothe ourselves, shelter us from weather. It allows us to build our homes and carve our totem poles and make canoes. And so it's the cedar tree itself is a very monumental piece of the culture of coastal First Nations people, and especially the Haida people. So a cedar hat, of course, is woven from the bark of the cedar tree. And the cedar hat, while it gives protection from the sun and the rain, it's quite beautiful. It's a very beautiful piece of functional art. And when we talk about regalia as being a part of who we are and being a part of the ceremonies that we attend, and carrying the energy of those ceremonies, it can't be treated like that of a hood, like of your hoodie or like a ball cap, right? Because it's a very special piece of regalia, not unlike, say, that your drum or your drumstick or any ceremonial attire, a button blanket, or maybe it's a tunic or a vest, right? That displays who you are through your crests. So it's the same as the teaching, right? Like everything depends on everything else, and you can really just see how everything's connected. So however that question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's some more questions coming in from students here. And one of them was, and I think you answered this a little bit, but was the story about you and your family, and why did you write the book? I sort of combined two questions there, but I feel like potentially they're related.
So I think why we wrote the book, the book actually came to us later. As I had mentioned, when we started to see and experience racism, it was sort of new-ish, if that makes sense. Like, I kind of feel like we've been making our home on Haida Gwaii for some time, and Haida Gwaii is an island off of coastal British Columbia, and it's an 8-hour ferry ride, or a seaplane ride, or a jet from Vancouver. So I feel like sometimes we feel like we're in a bit of a bubble. And when we moved from Haida Gwaii for me to become a teacher and finish my teaching degree, it placed me in a community where I was sort of out of my normal comforts, and I wasn't surrounded by people that I knew, and those new experiences weren't necessarily positive ones. And so, being followed through a store because people were worried that I might shoplift, or being denied access to bathrooms because of the way I look, or so just these tough sort of moments where we were wondering, like, was this race-based? And like, that was just outright, or this was maybe more subtle, or, so it, ultimately, I think the frustration and the anger and the hurt of those moments, were funneling into our life. And then we were faced with having to deal with it in a way that was healthy, and having very observant children. They were cueing into what was happening, and they were catching our conversations, and were starting to be concerned about, well, what does this mean for us? So we realized, in being forced to face our fears and our angers and our hurts and take care of our children in this new experience that was racism, that we might have a message that could help teachers, could help children, could help parents, could help anybody, really. So we just realized it was sort of like a belief that I have, is that, the Creator and our ancestors, whoever you are, if you allow it, do their work through you. And that's something that I believe that that my ancestors and the Creator work through me to bring to light, some of the truths and teachings. And something that we believe is that our ancestors and our elders, that our Kunisi, our ancestors, come back to us through our children, and that our children are also our teachers. And never to be dismissive or to try to silence our children, because they too have important messages and teachings for us. Bit of a long-winded answer there.
That's okay. I appreciate it. Probably time for a couple more questions here. Someone was wondering, how long did it take you to create the book from start to finish?
It took a while, right? So we started it right in the middle of like deep COVID, right? Like when it was just starting and everybody was shut down and afraid of going out. And we were in a situation where we had a lot of our older kids gone, right? And this guy wasn't born, and Doss wasn't born. It was spring break. They were visiting grandparents, and it was so quiet. And we just started the book. Now, we didn't do what we should have done, which would have been to have drafted the entire thing. We actually just wrote it page by page. We actually illustrated each page first. And when we thought of a new idea or what direction it would go, and when we had time, as you can see, I'm juggling a child, or we're juggling a child right now. We're fairly busy people. So I would say it took us maybe, oh no, we lost our, oh, we're still good. Okay, something happened with the phone. I was like, oh no. Maybe it took us 6 months to finish the creation of the book. And I would say the more lengthy process though was editing. The editing process took probably another 6 months of working with a team of editors. Then Strong Nations actually went through a sale. So they actually sold from the original owners to a new group. That really slowed down the process of getting the book to print. I would say from signing a contract to when we first saw the book. Mm-hmm. How long do you think that was?
From in April. The book was the following year. So it's pretty lengthy. So there were some paper delays and paper shortages because of COVID too, which also added to that. So.
And now we've made a second book, right? And so we've submitted that to publishers, and we have like a pending contract for that. And I would say that now with a bit more experience, it's fairly quick to make it. That didn't take us 6 months to make. But I think for any young authors out there and stuff, the really surprising thing that I didn't know was the length of time it takes from the getting that contract signed to actually getting the book out to print. That's a really lengthy process. Yeah.
Thank you. And a quick question from a student wondering if you have any pets in your family.
No, we have no pets. Our kids bug us all the time about, can we get a dog? And then we say we would rather just have another baby because it's the same amount of work. So no, we have no pets right now. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. And I guess, and sort of to finish off the questions here, what is the second book about, and what stage in the process are you at? And sort of to follow that, how can folks stay updated or stay in touch with you too to get that second book as well?
So
do you want me to take this one?
The second book, we'll take turns on this one because it's kind of exciting. So when we finished the process of the first book, I think we realized that with the closing of the project, we were losing a bit of that self-care and maintenance that came with it. And I think the beauty of that was in trying to be good role models for our children, we were actually really looking after ourselves and each other and our marriage and just the general vibe of the house. So when this project closed, I think intuitively we were both like, okay, we need to do another book. So that's essentially what we did, and sort of tweaked our process a little bit. As James touched on with the first book, we created the art and we did the writing later, and then we went through the editing, and then we went through the process of getting it to print. Where this one, we created the first bit of art. James created the first bit of art, which was the title page. And then we did the writing together, and then we submitted the manuscript, and then it was liked, and a contract coming for it. And now with that happening, just the other day, James started another piece of the illustration to go with the book. So it's not totally different. I think just a cleaner version from what we learned from the first one. And I'll let James touch on what that book's about.
I think in terms of its subject, we're bringing in High West now. We're aging him a little bit. And I feel like because we talk about everything, right? Like when we're making a page, we talk about stuff like, right? And we're really like nailing down our ideas. And so we through the first book really started to think about what does reconciliation mean to different people, right? And we really started to realize that everybody's on a different place in this journey, right? And so we decided to have High West ask a question to his parents after hearing them fight one day, and then use the word reconciliation during the fight, of being like, hey, what does this word mean? And then the parents are like, we would like you to ask a whole bunch of different people, hear what they say, and then come back to us. He goes on that journey, has some lessons. And again, we're trying to do this to talk about real things, right? So we don't want to make a book that doesn't talk about some of the hard stuff. So again, we explore some of the harder incidents that happened, like in our own lives. And so we explore that. And then he comes to his answer. I think it's possible that it would be a May next year release if everything goes smoothly. In terms of how we can keep updates, I mean, we don't even have I believe we have a contract in the mail. But I don't really know how I can answer that question right now.
I think actually we don't have social media until 2 days ago. So 2 days ago, we created an Instagram account with a link in our bio to Strong Nations, where you can purchase this book. And we're going to use that Instagram page to kind of follow this path of us as authors and as co-illustrators, and to kind of talk about these books and our visions and these tough conversations. So we wanted to have a platform to engage. So we just created that Instagram account just 2 days ago, I think. So you can find us on Instagram. Reid Authors, I think, is our username. I think you call it something like that. So you can find us on Instagram, James and Erica Reid Authors, where we'll share some updates and some of the art that we're making and some of the ideas that we'll be discussing in the new book.
How timely, perfect. And Haley already linked it into the chat. So thank you so much for that. And Hawa, thank you. It's so lovely to have hosted you both today. And I so appreciate just sharing this space and being able to have these discussions and ask questions on behalf of so many learners and educators across just beyond this country even, and so many other groups. And thank you so much. And I have some more thank yous to do as well, because I'm thanking our partners before we give away a couple prizes as well, a few prizes actually. And so I just want to make sure I thank Natural Curiosity again, because Haley has been here helping out and helping facilitate, and I so appreciate that. And thanks to Natural Curiosity for being a fantastic partner in outdoor learning, and Strong Nations as well, for their help coordinating today's event and connecting us with Erica and James. So much appreciation, and their generous prizes, which you'll hear about in a second, and their ongoing support. And of course, to our partner, the Outdoor Learning Store. They have so many supplies and resources on their website, and they are so encouraging at getting educators outside. And I encourage you to check them out. I know Alyssa's putting links in the chat in a sec here. And lastly, MEC has supported us throughout this week to make it all happen. So thank you to MEC as well. And on to the prizes here. And I'd so Alyssa has been choosing folks at random to get a prize. So if I say your name, and I have to make sure that you're here, so I'm checking that out right now, please send us your email, and you can email us as well. I'll put our info at takemeoutside.ca in the chat if you want to stay in touch with us, or reach out to us for any reason. That's our email. But quickly here onto the prizes. So an outdoor learning store gift card, $25 to spend there, goes to Willows Walk Public School. So congratulations, Willows Walk. You message us with your email, we will get in touch with you there. And that helps us know that you've heard this and that you have claimed your prize as well. Another amazing prize here, and I'll make sure that the winner is here. Yeah, Sandeepa, you have won a copy of Natural Curiosity 2nd edition book, the amazing resource for educators. There's Haley holding it there. She can show how amazing of a resource it is. And that will get mailed to you. So make sure that you send your email to us, Sandeepa, and Willows Walk. I see you've sent your email. Thank you. If you want to send it just to hosted panelists too, you can. You don't have to. If you don't want to put it out publicly in the chat, you can send it just to us if you want. And an amazing Strong Nations prize bundle, which includes Pacific Northwest plant knowledge cards, yoga cards, a copy of I Wish You Were Here from Erica and James Reid, amazing. Strong Stories Decale from Cecilia John. This is an awesome prize, and it is going to Madame West, grade 6 French immersion. Congratulations. Hey, you're in the chat. Yay, congratulations. I know we don't have video on, so we can't see anyone celebrating, but we're here celebrating for you. And we're so happy we can give away some of these prizes. And we're going to be giving away prizes all week through our speakers and events, activities, all of that stuff. So we really hope you can join throughout the rest of this week. Alyssa will put, actually I can put a link in the chat here, because I know Alyssa's keeping track of winners right now. It gets busy. So the schedule is all there. The recordings will be posted there along with our YouTube channel. So no problem if you want to rewatch it or share this, please feel free. And with that, I'm just going to say one last thank you. Thanks again to Erica and James and Haley for being here, Alyssa for tech support, and everyone else, of course, for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. So thank you so much, Erica and James. I hope you saw all the thank yous coming into the chat as well. There was so much gratitude coming through the chat. So my appreciation as well. Thanks, everybody.